My family kicked me out when I chose to marry an egg farmer. They cut off all ties with me and never included me in their family events. 5 years later, we crossed paths again at a funeral. They mocked me, asking, "You poor farmer, how's your life?" I smiled and introduced myself as the CEO of a $100 million farming company. "You mean nothing to me anymore. Don't ever set foot in this house again." My father yelled at me. The only support I had was from Elliot, the man I was soon going to marry. With tears streaming down my face, I left the place I had always called home. This happened right after I graduated from high school. Hi, I'm Sienna, a 34-year-old farmer, and it's been 16 years since that painful day. The years I've spent living on my own now outnumber the time I spent in my family home, and this fact stirs up some deep emotions inside me. I grew up in the city. My dad worked a corporate job while my mom stayed home to care for the family. There were 4 of us in total: my parents, my brother, and me. My brother was a year older, and for as long as I can remember, my parents treated us very differently. In their eyes, my brother was always the favorite. He was the one they saw as the heir, so everything he had was better. His meals were bigger and fancier, and his birthday gifts were more extravagant. My brother loved to brag about being treated better than me. He made it clear that he believed he was superior, and I often felt left out. Many nights, I would cry, longing for attention. But no matter how much I wished for things to change, my parents remained the same. Eventually, I gave up trying. Everything changed for me one summer during my second year of high school. At the time, my brother was stressing out about his upcoming college entrance exams. He was aiming to get into one of the top universities, but his practice exam scores were terrible. This made him constantly irritable, and he often took out his frustration on me. My parents, acting as if my brother were some fragile glass object, treated him with the utmost care. Meanwhile, they dumped all the household chores on me, leaving me with little to no time to focus on my own studies. My grades were better than my brother's, and I suspect my parents wanted to keep it that way, thinking it would boost his confidence. It was completely unfair and made no sense. Around that time, my teacher mentioned a program where students could spend a few days on a farm, experiencing life in the countryside. It was a 2-night, 3-day event where we would stay with a host family, help with harvesting vegetables, cook meals together, and get a taste of rural life. Feeling overwhelmed by the tension at home, I decided to sign up. Of course, my father was completely against the idea. He scoffed at it, saying only people who can't get real jobs in the corporate world would ever resort to farming. My mother joined in, laughing at the thought of me willingly doing manual labor and getting dirty in the fields. Despite their harsh words, I made up my mind to go. For the first time in my life, I went against my parents' wishes and used the money I had saved from my allowance to sign up for the program. It was a bold move, and looking back, it was the best decision I could have made. For someone starved of love and affection, the experience was like a breath of fresh air. Being in the countryside, working in the open fields, and breathing the clean air was exactly what I needed. And more importantly, for the first time in my life, I experienced the warmth of a real, loving family. The family I stayed with had an eldest son named Elliot. He was a year older than me, the same age as my brother. At first, I was cautious around him, simply because I wasn't used to being around older guys. But Elliot was nothing like my brother. He was kind yet firm, and he had a great relationship with his parents. He treated me with kindness, too. Elliot's parents were incredibly gentle and caring. Even though I was only there for 3 days, I cried when it was time to leave. Elliot's mother hugged me tightly, telling me, "You're welcome back anytime, dear." I promised her that I would return someday. They weren't big on using cell phones, so I started writing them letters regularly. Elliot replied often, and before long, we were exchanging letters back and forth like. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 2. Update. My family kicked me out when I chose to marry an egg farmer. They cut off all ties with me and never included me in their family events. 5 years later, we crossed paths again at a funeral. They mocked me, asking, "You poor farmer, how's your life?" I smiled and introduced myself as the CEO of a $100 million farming company. Part 2. I couldn't believe how easily she was ready to cast me aside. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought to keep them from falling. Then my sister, seeing the situation unfold, chimed in with a smug grin on her face. "Mom's right," Zara said in that sly tone I had always hated. "Why don't you just get lost?" "What?" I asked, disbelief coloring my voice. "You heard me. There's no space for you here now. We don't need you." "I'm the one who's been supporting Mom all this time," I argued, my voice trembling with a mix of frustration and hurt. Zara rolled her eyes. "So what? Mom wants to live with me now. You're nothing but a nuisance. Just go already. You're trash." Without missing a beat, Zara turned back to my mom and her husband, and the 3 of them began happily planning her move. They were talking about things like having a big barbecue to celebrate the move, while I stood there, invisible to them. "I'll get the meat for the barbecue," my sister chirped excitedly. "That sounds great," my mom replied, completely ignoring my presence. I couldn't believe it. As they laughed and talked about their plans, it was as if I no longer existed. Then Zara turned back to me, her tone now filled with impatience. Hey, why are you still standing there? Didn't I tell you to get out? You can't just throw me out like this, I protested. We don't need a parasite like you hanging around. Just leave already and give us some space. Be out by the end of the week. That should be enough time, right? Her words felt like daggers. I clenched my fists, holding back the wave of emotion that threatened to spill over. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Reluctantly, I nodded and left the room, my heart heavy. As if that wasn't enough, while I was packing, I overheard my mom and Zara planning a vacation. We'll be gone for a few days, my mom said. Just make sure you're out by the time we get back. Those were her final words to me before they left the house. To her, I was nothing more than a burden, something to be discarded now that Zara was back in the picture. I had tried for years to be the good daughter, but now I realized that no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough for my mom. I was done feeling sorry for her. The sympathy I had once felt was gone, replaced by a burning desire for revenge. So, with new resolve, I took action. I contacted a moving company immediately and made arrangements to move out as fast as possible while my mom and sister were away. The movers arrived, curious about the situation. Are we taking everything? One of them asked, noticing the amount of furniture being packed. Yes, please make sure to clear everything out, I replied with a smile. I was moving into company housing, which had been offered to me a few times before. Back then, I had turned it down because of my mom, but now I saw it as the perfect escape. There were still vacancies available, so I quickly filled out the necessary paperwork and started my new life. The company housing was better than I had imagined, spacious, clean, and far from the toxic environment I had been living in. As I settled into my new place, I checked my phone and saw several missed calls from both my mom and Zara. I wasn't surprised. I knew they would be furious once they returned home. Their voicemails were filled with demands. Get back here now. The messages screamed. Although I had expected this, the number of calls exceeded what I had imagined. I knew that if I ignored them, they might show up at my workplace, so I decided to confront them after work. When I arrived at the house, both my mom and sister were waiting for me, anger blazing in their eyes. The moment I walked in, my mom shouted, "What the hell happened? Why is the house empty? You even took my favorite fridge and toaster." Zara added, her voice shrill, "Where did you take everything?" I stood there calmly, watching them rant. "To my new place," I said, my voice steady. "You can't just take things without permission. Bring it all back now." Zara screamed, her face flushed with rage. "Why should I?" I replied, unbothered. "What do you mean, why? All that stuff belongs to Mom." My sister yelled, her frustration growing. I couldn't help but laugh. "What's so funny?" Zara snapped, her voice filled with irritation. "I'm sorry," I said, shaking my head. "You must be mistaken." Zara's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "Everything that was in this house, every piece of furniture, every appliance, I bought them with my own money." Her face fell. "That's not possible. All of this was here from the beginning," she insisted. I crossed my arms. "No, it wasn't. I paid for everything. Since I'm moving out, of course I'm taking what's mine." My sister's mouth hung open in shock, but I wasn't finished. "And by the way, the bank account you're talking about? That was my money, too." Zara looked as if she was about to explode. "You emptied the account? How could you?" "Simple," I said. "It was my money. Why wouldn't I take it all?" When I pushed her buttons a little more, my sister's face flushed with anger and she stormed toward me, shouting, "Don't mess with me." She was practically in my face now, red with fury, and she screamed, "Give back the money. That account should have had Dad's insurance money in it." I blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" "The money. It's not there," she shouted. "Of course it's not," I said flatly. "That money's long gone." "No way. The last time I came over, there was a lot of money in that account," she insisted. "That was just me adding in some of my own earnings, bit by bit, letting it grow over time," I explained. "But Dad's insurance money? That's been spent ages ago." My sister's head snapped toward our mom, eyes wide. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 3.